Hello, it's Debbie Gilbert from the Business Awards show, and I'm also the founder of the Best Businesswomen Awards. And today I am joined by Lisa McCallum, travel agent from Not Just Travel, and also a recent silver winner in the Best Businesswomen Awards for Best Customer Service, which is an incredible accolade to have under your belt. So welcome, Lisa.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Debbie. This feels like such a surreal moment, so thank you.
Oh, and fresh off of all the PR you've been getting on your award, which is amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Kind of
much local support.
Yeah, it's really lovely. Though my son is absolutely mortified because whilst I think it's the most amazing thing to be featured in your local paper, a 13-year-old boy does not think that that's a cool thing at all. In fact, he's quite mortified. And I just thought when he discovers tomorrow that the local magazine that gets hand delivered to everybody in my village is going to have a half-page feature on me, he's going to be even more embarrassed. But yes,
Ah,
I'm proud, and I think you have to shout about it because if you don't, then nobody knows. And then what was the point in that? So,
well,
yeah.
you do have a funny little story about what your son said when you said you were a finalist in the awards. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, so my son is hilarious. He's 13 years old. He's very straight talking. He is autistic, and so when he kind of talks, he's very factual in how his way is. He's not trying to be nasty. And when I picked him up from school, he loves to have a business chat with me. It's like his real kind of like exciting part before of his day. And so I said, I've had this brilliant idea, Jackson. I'm going to enter the Best Businesswomen Awards, and gave him like the spiel on why I was doing that. And he just stopped me and said, Mummy, it's a national award. Let's talk about how many women there are up and down the country, how many people might enter. And in short, like I didn't have a chance. So, like, what would be the point in that? And I remember thinking, okay, Jackson. And I said to him, like, I appreciate your comments, but just so you know, the right thing to say was, that's a brilliant idea, Mummy. And, give it your best shot. And I believe in you, not kind of like hit me with, the harsh reality that it's incredibly difficult. I'm aware it's incredibly difficult. But I felt that I had, enough evidence to kind of support it, and I was going to try it. And so I didn't tell anybody else about it at all. I didn't even tell my husband I was applying. And yeah, and just kind of that waiting of like, have I made it? Have I not? And then when I finally like the announcement came out and I was just like, Jackson, I'm a finalist. And he was like, what, really? He was so stunned. And I was like, see, you've got, even if something feels really out of reach, if you don't try it, then you absolutely have no chance. But if you try it, you never know. You might just, go on to sort of,
I love that. I
yeah.
love the fact that you really sat there and looked at all the evidence that you had about how great your customer service is. And you thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. And if more people were like you, it will be amazing.
Oh,
Because
thank
I
you.
think we hold ourselves back sometimes, don't we?
100%, 100%, yeah. And that little voice in your head, can so quickly kind of like stop you from doing so many things. And actually, sometimes you've just got to kind of like park it and just think, no, actually, I'm going to ignore you. I believe in me. I'm going to do it. So, yeah,
Excellent.
I did.
So let's go back to the start of let's talk about your career from the get-go, really, and how you have come to be this amazing travel agent. So talk me through your journey.
Okie dokie. So I never set out ever to be a business owner. That was never kind of my thing. I'd actually had a very difficult childhood. And so I'd actually left home at 16 and I lived in a shared house, which had no central heating, no hot water. I lived on £12 a week income support. And I didn't even have a bedroom door that properly shut. It was harsh. And so I needed to get a job, was the reality of it. And so I tried to stay at college and it just wasn't working out. So I was walking along Watford High Street, and in the olden days when you had recruitment agencies, and there was an ad in the window for a trainee credit controller, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but it says the word trainee, I'll go for that. And I remember being in the interview, and it's before Google, you can't research what you're doing, and the lady said to me, oh, so what made you interested in finance? And I was like, oh no, of all the things to do, like I do not want to work in finance, but I didn't obviously say that. And I got the job, and it meant that I could move into a better accommodation, and I soon discovered having holidays. And to be fair, all I ever really wanted was holidays, and I kind of got the bug quite early on. And so I worked my way up thinking, okay, well, I may not have wanted to be a trainee credit controller, but one day I'll be running the department. And every year or 2 years, I changed jobs into something more senior, earning more money to have more holidays. And as shallow as that sounds, I very much kind of was always on holiday, booking another holiday, and that was my thing. When I was 24, I remember hitting quite a low point, really, thinking I should be really happy. I had an amazing job. I was running the accounts payable and accounts receivable department. I had my own property, I had a lovely car, had a great salary, had all the holidays I could want, and I was desperately unhappy because I think, when you sort of think to yourself, is this all life is? Doing a job that you hate to have a holiday and just living for the next holiday, it just felt empty, I guess, really. And so I thought, I just had this mad idea, funny enough, while I was on holiday, that I was going to take a year out. I was going to rent out my house and I was going to go traveling. And whilst I was away, I was talking to the rep, and I thought, you know what, actually, I could be a holiday rep. This sounds quite cool. Like, they'll fly you out, and you're going to get your uniform and you get your accommodation. And actually, this could be a safer way to do it. And, I'll apply for a laugh. I've got no sales experience whatsoever. If I get the job, brilliant. But if I don't, it doesn't matter because I'm going to go traveling. So I took a brave decision, and handed in my notice, got the job as a rep. And so I did a season. I started my training in Mallorca. I did a season in Menorca and Fuerteventura. But then I was just thinking, I was like one of the oldies because I was 24, and most reps are kind of like 18, 19. So I was kind of like the mum of the resort and like the driver, and it wasn't something I wanted to do kind of for the long term. And I knew I needed to kind of go back and sort out my house and stuff. So anyway, I thought, right, I'm going to come back to England. I am not doing a job that I don't like. I've now discovered that you can actually do a job that you love. And I went home, went into a recruitment agency, and they saw my CV and they were like, "Oh, we've got this amazing job at Ralph Lauren." And I was like, "Oh my God." And I got lured back into that whole kind of I could be like the real life Jennifer Aniston. I can have my own office. I'm gonna have like loads of free clothes in my sample sales. It's a great salary. Most importantly, it's going to pay the mortgage, and give me all my holidays. And I just thought, do you know what? I had a taster of doing something I love. Does it really matter? And kind of went back into just then staying in retail, doing jobs I didn't like, and just being quite comfortable that I enjoyed my lifestyle. And then that all changed when I became a mum. So I never returned to work once I had my son. And I was a full-time mum for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the holidays had long stopped because, when you're not working. And my children, I've got two boys, and they're both autistic, which I think I mentioned with my eldest earlier, and they kind of needed me to be a full-time mum with all the fights at school, to get all the kind of level of support and extra medical appointments. And my husband, in 8 years ago, so October 2016, had this mad idea that he was going to take a year off work. And I remember thinking, oh my God, if you're going to take a year off, you can be me. You can be me, and I can go and get a job. But then I remember thinking, well, but it's only for a year. And then what am I going to do? And then trying to look at childcare costs. And then
Oh,
because
terrible, isn't it?
really, really high. And then because, especially my eldest at the time, he was very sort of rigid. He still is quite, but the idea of how that was going to look for him, for me to have a job, but still I needed to be doing the school pickups, and I'd
Yeah.
still need to be there for the additional kind of appointments and things. And so I realized I couldn't just go and get a job because that's really difficult. And so anyway, then I had this mad idea and this mad conversation with my husband saying, well, what I'd love to do is I would love to sell holidays. I'd love to have a travel business working from home and, selling holidays. But I didn't actually necessarily know what that meant, or, the idea
It
of
was
being a
quite an
business.
emerging thing at the time, wasn't it? 8 to 10 years ago. This was
Yeah.
when the kind of, I think the internet had progressed sufficiently that people could do this from home, and travel shops were disappearing from the high street, weren't they? So it was
Yeah.
quite quite
Yeah.
a new thing then, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And my husband just turned around to me and said, well, if that's what you want to do, why don't you research doing that? And it was just like
Oh,
this weird light bulb kind of like, oh, it never occurred to me that like if you want to do something, like go and research it. And that night I was Googling away, and we're very impulsive kind of people. And in short, I found one company up in up north, and I was like, no, they're too far away. And the second company I discovered was Not Just Travel. Never heard of them, but I was like, okay, well, they're in Christchurch, so that's 2 hours away. I kind of liked what it said. They were members of ABTA. There was lots of kind of like positivity that I could see. And so within 3 weeks of this mad conversation that had never been on my radar at all, I'd formed a limited company. I'd got that registered, parted with 15 grand, which was how much it was to buy a
wow.
franchise, wrote a manual of what to do with the kids, and off I went. And I'd never even left the kids for a night. And now I was disappearing, like, for like full on training. And the whole thing, like when you look back and you just think, wow, I really took quite a bit of big risk really with
Mm.
that, because I hadn't done proper due diligence at all. And when I did my when I turned up at head office, I was like, oh, thank goodness they exist. Because like I had no real idea like at all, like I could have totally been like ripped off. And I just thought, ideally, like, you'd slow down, but when I get an idea in my head, I just kind of run away with it. And, sometimes I think that's a good thing, because if you overthink something, you would never maybe want to do something. Whereas if you just kind of throw yourself in, then there's no looking back. So, yeah, and 8 years on.
Wow.
So
Mm.
that's
8 years
quite,
on.
yeah.
So, talk us through what sort of services that you offer. I mean, you can basically offer the same as a high street travel agent, can't you?
Yeah, 100%. So I, under the brand of Not Just Travel, we're kind of very connected to Hayes Travel. So under that, you've got all their buying power. So if, for example, somebody wants to have just a traditional package, I don't know, like a TUI Jet2 holiday, they could go online and book it themselves, or they could come to me and I could book exactly the same holiday. If somebody wants something totally tailor-made and bespoke to them, then I can do that. I can kind of do anything and everything. The biggest difference is everything I book is fully protected, fully
Mm.
packaged, and if anything ever was to go wrong in the chain of it, then they're locked. They've got that full protection, as well as
And so,
me.
you had quite a journey in the 8 years, because obviously, right in the middle of that, we've had the pandemic, which obviously was devastating for the travel industry. And the award you've just won is for customer service. So, let's talk over the last 8 years and how you've built such a great reputation. And how on earth did you cope with that pandemic? It must have been horrendous.
Yeah, the pandemic was definitely like shows like how much resilience you need. And it also showed to me how much I love travel, and
Mm.
that even with everything falling down around you, like that was my thing, that I still didn't fall out of love with it. So with me, it's very much a personal service. From the moment somebody gets in touch with me and wants to book a holiday with them, I'm going to make that person feel, if I can, the most important client ever, and just give them an amazing experience. So whether they're going for a single center holiday, or they're doing a really complex multi-itinerary, everybody gets the same level of customer service. Everyone has my personal mobile number. I love giving people all my top tips of what to do in a destination. Most people, don't necessarily want to do all the things that I would suggest. And sometimes people are like, oh, I'm sorry, Lisa, we didn't do anything that you said. And that's fine. If people do just want to relax, then that's fine. But I love sharing my tips. I love, for every single person that goes away, I always get in touch with the hotel in advance, and any special requests, if I know is a birthday, an anniversary, or anything at all, like, I'm always kind of in touch with the hotels.
So, as part of your sort of onboarding a client, you'll ask them these key details. Are you going away for a specific celebration? Is that part
Yes.
of what you do? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And over time, so this year, for example, 71% of my customers are repeats. So, and a lot of them have been with me right since the beginning of my business journey. So I kind of know them so well now. And so, like, even last month or the beginning of this month, I had a couple who were doing a multi-center around Argentina, and I knew it was their 42nd anniversary. they weren't going away because of that, but I knew that. And so I made sure that every hotel knew that they were celebrating 42 years of marriage.
Oh,
And it was so lovely. Of all the, I think there was, I can remember there was 5 different hotels. There was a lot of different hotels. Apart from the very first one, every single hotel would have like a little message in the room, or some chocolates or some champagne, like something cute with a little message, just to kind of make people feel special.
oh,
Every booking gets a thank you card handwritten by me. If I've got a guidebook of the destination, I'll always send that as well. If I haven't got the guidebook and someone's going on a particular destination that's quite a complex, busy, a big place, they're doing a tour, I'll buy them a really lovely guidebook. And a lot of people will kind of have it as a bit of a library service now. So people are very lovely giving the books back. So a lot of my books are very well traveled now. So that's really quite lovely. Birthday cards, Christmas cards, I just try and do as much as I can to kind of make people feel really special when they're away. So, and one of my clients, for example, today, it's currently her 50th birthday, and I had let the hotel know in advance that she was coming. She was traveling with her friends, so I wanted to make sure that they knew to give her a twin room and not a king bed. And then when they arrived, they'd been upgraded to an ocean view room. So it's like really lovely. And then today is her actual birthday. And so I'd been messaging the friend that she was traveling with just to organise the logistics for the cake that I'd ordered for her. So this morning while she was having breakfast, out come the waiters like singing happy birthday with a cake for her. So I knew she wouldn't be like, it was a bit embarrassing, but like she was okay with it. But it's that whole making somebody feel really special is what I really like to do. But also holidays don't always go smoothly. And, I've got a lot of examples where people have kind of had awful things happen to them whilst they're away. And my customer service and my availability goes up even more than it possibly could. So like if we took maybe the wildfires in Rhodes, and I had a family who it was their first family holiday, and the message that I received, I was on my way to the theatre. It was a Saturday afternoon, and they were being evacuated from their hotel. And I was just like reading this message, just thinking, oh my goodness, like, we're on the way to the theatre. My client is being evacuated. What on earth? And so obviously, like, everything drops then, like, all that matters is I've got to be there now for my clients and do whatever I can do. And a lot of it was just virtual support over the 6 days until they kind of got home. But, sorting out where their accommodations are, getting emergency, sharing like the husband's mobile number, her mobile, and checking in where are they, and then letting the supplier know, and just kind of being there for people. So so it's not always just for the good. It's there no matter what the situation is, and sometimes it's extreme, and sometimes it's just medium extreme, like someone's flight's been cancelled, or someone's become unwell, or someone's had an accident. So but yeah, I'm always, no matter what time of the day it is, no matter what day of the week it is, I'm there 100% for my clients.
yeah, which is lovely. And I think that's what people sometimes need, that reassurance, and the difference between booking it yourself online. Yeah, we can all go and book a hotel and a flight ourselves, but actually, if anything goes wrong, you've got no one to turn to. If you do that, you have nothing
Yeah,
um, that you can fall back on,
no,
because, your service is the fact that if there's, a need for help and support whilst you're on holiday, then they can pick up the phone to you and you'll help them as much as you possibly can, which is great.
yeah.
Um,
And I was going to say, and sometimes you find that if there's a crisis wherever what might be going on, a lot of the time it will be massive on a huge scale. And so ever trying to get through to the airlines or doing something is on a huge scale. So if you're trying to deal with that yourself, that's even more stressful. Whereas I'm very used to spending hours on hold. I've often got at least one phone on hold. Sometimes I've got two on hold. Sometimes I can't remember who I'm holding for, because I'm on hold for so long that, you kind of, but that's just kind of, I'm okay to hold. And if people are in an emergency situation, or especially if they're away, I don't want them using their battery, like to stay available for me. I'll be on hold, and I'll be that person person to kind of, and I suppose also I've got a lot of contacts now worldwide, and so you can always kind of pull on those for support as well.
So let's talk about the hot destinations. What's the places that people are visiting in 2025?
Oh, lots of bucket lists. Lots of bucket list holidays are happening at the moment. And it's quite interesting because at one point I felt that there was a lot of, it was pre-COVID, it was very much kind of like a lot more single centre holidays. Whereas I think people now are far more kind of adventurous and wanting to kind of go to places more off the beaten track, or they're wanting places that they've kind of maybe always dreamed of going to, but had never kind of really thought how that would look. And so a lot of the time, so sort of things like Race Across the World, those kind of things,
Yes.
they really kind of like
Yeah.
inspire people a lot of the
Yeah.
time. So you kind of see, a lot of, I've done a lot of complex kind of multi-itineraries, be it in the Far East, in sort of South America, throughout Europe. So there's a lot more bookings that are not just a one destination, but then also other places that are kind of becoming more up and coming, are places that are new maybe to tourism. So we went to Montenegro at the beginning of the sort of Easter time this year. And again, it wasn't really on people's radar. And then since we've been there, a lot of people follow our holidays or copy our holidays or do something similar to what we do. And I always try and showcase when we're kind of away of all the beautiful things that you can see and do should you wish. And that's an example of like so many people have then kind of like booked going to Montenegro, or they've got that in the diary because they've seen, what we've kind of done there. So it's quite nice that places of more not so much typical on the radar, but there's always short haul kind of like people love Greece and the Greek islands and Spanish islands and city breaks. So all sorts really. Yeah.
I think we are moving away from the traditional fly and flop holidays, aren't we? We are kind of more adventurous. And I think programs like Race Across the World has inspired people to think, gosh, this is possible. I can get buses across South America. Louise Yexley, who I know from WIBN, has just done the most amazing trip across South America, mostly on buses and trains through Peru and Machu Picchu and all of these different countries. And I've been following that on her social media. She's been posting. I think it was about a 3 or 4 week trip. And it is really inspirational, isn't it? And I think you're always on holiday, aren't you? You're always sharing stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, how far ahead do you plan your travels?
So I typically always a year ahead. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. So and then I have like, so at the moment I've got 3 trips officially in the diary, but I'll be trying to squeeze in a couple more if I can. But it's always difficult, I think, when you've got school holidays to factor in, and so we're always quite sort of restricted, I suppose, to those, and making sure everyone's dates kind of work the same. But yeah, typically you find that if you book in advance, you've got the best choice and you've got the biggest kind of offers on, so like free child places, and you can spread out the cost. And I kind of know from the COVID days, so pre-COVID, I maybe wouldn't have booked always so far in advance, but now I know actually with the right suppliers, you know that you can book with a low deposit. And if the world was to change or there was going to be a situation, you know that you can rebook it. Or I'm kind of, so I'm much more confident to be like, just get it in the diary. If it happens, brilliant. If it doesn't happen, I know it will be easily kind of rebookable, because like throughout COVID, for example, I think we did 5 holidays during that period with all the different weird and wonderful rules that there were. And every holiday that I booked, we never ended up at that destination because the traffic lights or the rules would always change. So now I'm kind of very much kind of like, just put it in the diary, get it booked. If it happens, brilliant. If something happens in that destination and the Foreign Office say you can't go there or something's amiss, it's easily typically kind of like, I'm more confident
Yeah.
to move it.
And
So.
what's on Lisa's list then? Where's your next few destinations? Where are you off
Well,
to?
it's my best friend's 50th birthday
Wow.
coming up in a few weeks. So we're actually having a little girly trip to Barcelona for her
Nice.
birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been booking so many people's milestone holidays. And then I was like, oh, I think we need to have like a birthday holiday for you. So we're doing that. And then we've got a family holiday to Cyprus, all being well, at Easter. And then Tenerife in the summer is the big one. My boys are desperate to go to Siam water park. So yeah, they're
Oh,
big thrill seekers. So yeah, so fingers crossed.
great,
Yeah.
great. Well, it all sounds fantastic. So, let's talk a little bit about being a franchisee
Yeah.
because I get asked quite often, oh, well, I'm not really eligible for business awards because I'm a franchisee. And I'm like, no, you are eligible for business awards because all you're actually doing is buying somebody else's brand and system, and you have to make that work as your business. So, I mean, obviously, in the travel industry, the licensing aspects are very attractive to buying a franchise, aren't they? Because you have to be licensed really when you're running a travel agency. But what other benefits have you had as being a franchisee? What has it brought to you?
Yeah, so I think at the very beginning, I utilized far more what it had on offer, if you like, because when you first start out, there's so much training. I had like a senior kind of like travel consultant who was like readily available whenever I needed any help. There was always there. You've got a head office support. You've got so many different kind of levels of support if you want training. It's already got the marketing. They've already done your website. They have all sorts of training events, both overseas and in the UK. So at the beginning, I'd kind of like make full use of all of those. But very much it's your own business. And I think as time's gone on, I like the umbrella of being part of Not Just Travel and, you know, all that comes with that. But I tend to be far more authentic to promoting and selling what I want to sell. It's my business. And so I won't necessarily jump on the bandwagon of what head office maybe are saying, oh, this is really big. And, you know, we've got this huge training. So for example, with cruise, like cruise is massive at the moment, and that's kind of like becoming more and more popular. But I am not a cruiser. And so like, you know, that's not my thing. And so Not Just Travel have like invested in this huge training about every type of ship, and like the training's phenomenal, but I don't want to be part of that because as far as I'm concerned, like that's not my thing. I'm not going to get really, really excited about it. And so if somebody comes to me and they want to go on a cruise, and if they're new to cruising, well, I've got friends within the Not Just Travel system who are absolute, like one of them is an absolute addict, like, you know, and she's always on a cruise and she has superpowers of knowing the best cabin to get. And she's going to know every single little thing to enhance that holiday, like I do with a flying and land holiday. She's that expert for cruising. So I'd rather pass it over, you know, and just say, like, you know, if you really want to go on the cruise, I'm not the best person. I can book it, absolutely. But if you really want, you know, somebody who's so passionate and knowledgeable about it, and I pass them over. And not for any money, not for anything at all. It's just I genuinely want people to have the best experience. And if I don't think that I can offer the best experience for that type of holiday, I would rather somebody that I know that would did. So, but there's all those kind of training benefits if you want. And it's just nice, I think, to have all those other sort of travel agents, if you like, that, you know, we've got like a WhatsApp group, and you don't always know everything about something, or sometimes it will just be like, who's the best supplier to go to for this? You know, if you've got a new type of inquiry, or a lot of us were burnt during COVID with certain suppliers that we'd never touch again. And somebody wants to do a holiday that's with a supplier that you're nervous of. And so, you know, we could, in that WhatsApp, you know, just be like, oh, what's people's recent experience with such and such. So it's all that kind of being part of a community and a team if you want it kind of thing. And, you know, as much or as little that you want, it's there if you want it. So I
Excellent.
like to know that
Yeah,
they're there if I want them kind of thing. But
yeah.
largely, you know, they just do my admin and send out paperwork to clients. But even then, I still duplicate a lot of it. I still like to personally know that I've sent the travel documents. So even though
Mm.
I'll be like, when I'm sending stuff to people, I'll be like, you will get this from a head office as well. You only need the one copy. But in my head, if I'm doing everything, I just feel happier that I know it's done. So I've clearly got
Fabulous.
trust issues, I think, with some of those things, but it feels more complete if you're personally checking things over and doing it.
Yeah, which is amazing. Um, so let's kind of finish the podcast off by talking about business tips. So you're 8 years down the line, and if you looked back over that 8 years and you could give your younger self some advice all those 8 years ago on what you've learned over all of these years, what would you say?
So I think one of my first things is slow down sometimes, and just look at things a bit, better. I remember reading your book, actually, The Successful Mumpreneur, and wishing I'd read that book before I'd even started out, when you were kind of talking about the benefits of whether you was a sole trader or whether you was a limited company, or, and what all these different things meant. I didn't know any of that. I just kind of had it in my head. My dad was a sole trader and he lost everything. So I mustn't be a sole trader. I must be limited. And just kind of like, yes, I'd say I'd slow down, but I would also always ask for help, and outsource where you can. So there's a lot of things that I do. Like I have an accountant, I have a bookkeeper. My background might be finance, but I feel like I'm allergic to that now. Like, I like to I like to do the fun stuff. And I also realized that, especially like when you kind of networking, and I find that business networking is really, really valuable, because when you work by yourself, it can be quite lonely, and you're everybody, aren't you? And actually, it's really nice if you can kind of have somebody that's a marketing expert, or somebody that is having an issue with Facebook, or, or just having a sounding board of other business owners. So I think it's asking for help, and not trying to be doing everything if you don't need to do everything. If there's someone that can do something, can make it more simple for you, then I think that that's a really good thing to do. And it's not like a weakness that you're paying somebody to do something for you. If actually you're going to spend, if I was filing my accounts, I don't know how many hours that would take me. It just wouldn't be worth my time. Whereas if there's an expert that loves numbers and is quite happy to, that's what they do. And there's also lots of small businesses that can support you just ad hoc, like with a marketing idea, or with a, sort of promotional things and stuff. So yeah, asking for help, I think, is really nice, and just supporting yourself around lots of positive people. So then when the times are difficult, you've got a lot of other business buddies that maybe are riding those roller coasters, because you do need a lot of resilience sometimes, don't you? Or you can have a bad day, and just because one thing didn't go well, or one person wasn't that happy because something had happened, and actually, you just having other people that are working by themselves, having that can help pick you up, I think, really.
Oh, that's a lovely, lovely comment to end our podcast today. You truly are an exceptional businesswoman, and offering exceptional customer service, and our judges absolutely loved everything that you're doing with your business. And you are a real credit to not just travel as well. So, I'm sure they're very proud of your success as well. So thank you for joining me. I wish you continued success with your business. And if you're listening to the podcast today and you're thinking of booking that next holiday, then we will make sure that Lisa's details are in the show notes or in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. Because if you book your holiday with Lisa, you are going to get the best possible advice and the best possible service from an award-winning travel agent. So well done, Lisa, and I wish you continued success.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you.
Thank you.